Most people read Numbers 21 as a story of battles, serpents, and kings. But what if none of it was about physical events? What if this entire chapter is a map of your inner transformation? A journey showing how awareness begins, how resistance rises, how distorted thinking affects you, and how you finally overcome the deepest beliefs about yourself. Because when symbolic language is misunderstood, a message about awakening becomes a story about conflict. But today, we are going to decode it from within. And once you see it this way, you will never read this chapter the same again. So let's begin. Numbers 21, verse 1. It says, "And when King Arad the Canaanite, who dwelt in the south, heard tell that Israel came by the way of the spies, then he fought against Israel and took some of them prisoners." Israel represents awakened identity, the self that has wrestled and seen. Remember, after Jacob wrestled with the man, his name was changed to Israel. So Israel represents the awakened identity. Way represents path of alignment or movement in truth. Spice represents inner exploration, awareness that has seen truth. King Arad represents ruling thought pattern, a dominant mindset. Canaanites represent conditioned thinking, inherited patterns. South, it represents lower consciousness, emotional and reactive realm. Fought against Israel is inner resistance. Took prisoners represents parts of your awareness captured by old patterns. It says, you are now on the path of awareness. You've seen something deeper, explored truth, despise, began to move in alignment the way, and immediately resistance rises. King Arad the Canaanite. This is not a physical king. It is a ruling pattern within you, a dominant belief, a strong mindset, and a conditioned way of thinking. Canaanite represents patterns formed from upbringing, environment, and past conditioning. These are not new. They are deeply rooted. Next line, who dwelt in the south? South represents lower awareness, such as emotional reactions, survival thinking, and fear-based responses. So this pattern operates from emotion, not truth. Next line. Heard that Israel came by the way of the spies. This is powerful. It's saying, the moment you begin to see differently, gain insight, and explore truth, your old patterns become aware of it. It's like something is changing. This person is thinking differently. Awareness threatens the old system. Next line, he fought against Israel. This is internal. You begin to feel resistance, doubt, confusion, and emotional pushback. Not because you are wrong, but because you are growing. Next line, took some of them prisoners. This is key. Not all of you, but some parts of your awareness. This looks like you understand truth, but still struggle. You see clearly, but fall back in moments. You are free in one area, but bound in another. Some parts of you are still captured by old thinking. Relationship example. You started to see unhealthy patterns. You started to understand your worth. But then, you still feel emotionally pulled. You still tolerate certain things. Part of you is free. Part of you is still taken prisoner. Career example. You've realized you want more. You are capable of growth. But fear still limits your actions. Doubt still holds you back. Awareness is there, but not fully embodied yet. Religion example. You've seen deeper meaning, seen symbolic truth, but some old beliefs still linger. Some fear still shows up. That's captivity at the level of thought. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals the moment you begin to walk in truth, resistance will arise from what once ruled you. Awareness doesn't remove all patterns instantly. It exposes them. You are on the way. You have seen. You are moving. And now, something within you rises to fight it. Not because you are failing, but because you are no longer asleep. And even if some parts of you feel bound, the fact that you see it means you are already on your way to freedom. Next verse. And Israel vowed a vow unto the Lord and said, if thou wilt indeed deliver this people into my hand, then I will utterly destroy their cities. Israel represents awakened identity, the self that sees. Vowed a vow is deep inner commitment or decision. Lord God represents truth or higher awareness or ultimate reality. Deliver into my hand means bring under conscious awareness or control. Destroy their cities means dismantle structured patterns and belief systems. Before this, resistance rose. Some parts of you were taken captive, and old patterns pushed back. Now, you respond with intention. Next line, Israel vowed a vow. This is not casual. This is a decision from within. You say, I'm not going back. I see this clearly now. I'm choosing differently. This is commitment. Next line, unto the Lord. This means aligning your decision with truth, not emotion, not fear, not impulse, but clarity. Next line, deliver these people into my hand. You are saying, bring these patterns into my awareness so I can deal with them, not suppress them, not ignore them, but to see them clearly. Next, I will utterly destroy their cities. Cities equals structured patterns, such as belief systems, habits, and ways of thinking. To destroy here means dismantle completely, not manage them, not negotiate with them, but remove their foundation. Relationship example. You see unhealthy patterns. You see emotional cycles. Now you decide, I will not tolerate this anymore. Not halfway, but fully. You set boundaries. You stop repeating the cycle. You change your behavior. That's destroying the city. Career example. You see limiting beliefs and fear patterns. Now you decide, I'm not operating from fear anymore. So you take action. You challenge your thinking. You build new habits. The old structures begin to fall. Religion example. You see distorted interpretations and fear-based beliefs. Now you decide, I'm choosing truth over fear. So you let go of old frameworks. You embrace clarity. You shift your understanding. That's dismantling the system. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals, Awareness must become a decision, or nothing changes. Seeing truth is the beginning. Choosing it is the transformation. There comes a moment when you stop observing your patterns and you say, enough. Not out of anger, not out of fear, but out of clarity. And in that moment, you don't just see differently, you become different. Because truth, when chosen, dismantles everything that is not aligned with it. Now, let's pay attention to something in Numbers 21, verse 2. It says, I want you to pay attention here. It says, and Israel vowed a vow unto the Lord and said, if thou wilt indeed deliver these people into my hand, then I will utterly destroy their cities. It should have said, we will, right? Because it's a nation. So it should have said, we will. But it said, deliver these people into my hand, not our hand. Not we will destroy their city. It says, I will. Did you catch that? What this reveals symbolically, even though Israel is many, it speaks as one. This aligns perfectly with Christ in you. The kingdom of God is within you. You are the temple, and you are a royal priesthood. The journey is collective in appearance, but singular in experience. The inner meaning. This shows transformation is personal. You can hear teachings, be part of a group, see others growing. But when it comes to confronting patterns, choosing truth, and dismantling old structures, it becomes my hand, not our hand. It's each one for himself. Into my hand, this is personal responsibility. This means I must face this within myself. Not we will change together. Not others will help me do it. But I will take responsibility for what I see. Why this is powerful? Because awareness is always individualized. No one else can think for you, choose for you, and break your patterns for you. They can guide you, but the decision is always yours. That's why even though Israel is many, it said, I, not our. Relationship example. You may both see the issue, talk about it, but at some point, it becomes my boundary, my decision, my standard. Career example. You can learn from others, be inspired by others, but action becomes my move. Religion example. You can hear teachings. You can explore ideas. But understanding becomes my realization. The deeper revelation. This subtle shift reveals awakening is shared, but transformation is personal. Truth may be revealed to many, but it must be embraced by one, the one within you. You can walk with others. You can learn with others. You can grow alongside others. But there will always come a moment when truth looks at you and asks, what will you do with this? And in that moment, it is no longer our hand. It is your hand. And that is where real transformation begins. Verse 3. And the Lord hearkened to the voice of Israel and delivered up the Canaanites, and they utterly destroyed them and their cities. And he called the name of the place Hormah, which is utter destruction. Now, do you see the change? It comes back to they, not I. The Lord hearkened. It means truth responds when alignment is chosen. Voice of Israel is inner conviction, clear decision from awareness. Delivered up the Canaanites means patterns exposed and brought into awareness. Utterly destroyed them is complete dismantling of misaligned thinking. Cities represent structured belief systems. Hormah, utter destruction, represents a state where old patterns no longer exist. In the previous verse, you made a decision. You aligned with truth. You took responsibility, my hand. Now, truth responds. The Lord hearkened. This is not about a distant God listening. This is about alignment, activating transformation. When you see clearly, choose truth, and commit fully, something shifts within you. Clarity becomes stronger, more stable, and more active. Next, the voice of Israel. Not just awareness, but expressed awareness. You didn't just think it, you declared it internally. You said, I'm done with this pattern. I'm choosing differently. That voice carries power. Next line, delivered up the Canaanites. Now the patterns are fully visible. No more confusion. No more hidden influence. No more subtle control. You see them clearly. Next, they utterly destroyed them and their cities. This is not partial change. This is complete dismantling. Not just behavior, but the structure behind the behavior. Structures such as belief systems, thought patterns, and identity frameworks, all removed. Next is Homer, utter distraction. This becomes a new state of being, a place where those patterns no longer exist. Not suppressed, but transformed beyond recognition. Relationship example. Before, you tolerated patterns. You felt confused. Now, you see clearly. You don't entertain it. You don't go back. The pattern is gone at the root. Career example. Before, fear guided decisions and limitation controlled action. Now, clarity leads. Confidence grows. Action flows. The old mindset no longer operates. Religion example. Before, fear-based beliefs and confusion. Now, understanding is stable. Truth feels natural. The old system collapses completely. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals, when you fully align with truth, transformation becomes inevitable. What you commit to in clarity, truth will complete within you. You made the decision. You chose truth. You took responsibility. And now, everything that once held you has no place to stand. Not because you fought harder, but because you saw clearly. And what is seen clearly can no longer control you. And that place where the old you ended becomes the beginning of who you truly are. Verse 4. And they journeyed from Mount Hor by the way of the Red Sea to compass the land of Edom, and the soul of the people was much discouraged because of the way. Journeyed. This is ongoing process or movement in transformation. Mount Hor means previous elevation, a point of clarity and transition. Way of the Red Sea is the path of separation, leaving the old behind. Compass the land of Edom. This is going around instead of directly through. Edom represents flesh, emotional identity, the reactive self, the Esau pattern. Soul discouraged. This is emotional fatigue and inner frustration. Because of the way, the process itself feels difficult. You've already experienced clarity, made decisions, and dismantled patterns. But the journey continues. They journeyed. Transformation is not a single moment. It is a process. Even after breakthroughs and realizations, you still have to walk it out. By the way of the Red Sea. This represents separation from your old identity. You've crossed out of the old. You've left behind certain patterns, but now you are still moving forward. To compass the land of Edom, instead of going straight, they go around. Edom represents emotional reactions, the fleshly identity, and the reactive self. You are navigating around these patterns, but it feels longer, slower, and more difficult. The soul was much discouraged. This is very human. You begin to feel tired, frustrated, and discouraged. You have thoughts like, why is this taking so long? I thought I already overcame this. Why am I still dealing with this? The discouragement is not because you are failing. It's because you are still in process. Because of the way. This is important. Not because something went wrong. Not because something failed. But because of the path itself. Growth can feel uncomfortable, repetitive, and slow. Relationship example. You've set boundaries. You've left old patterns. But then, you still feel emotions. You still process old wounds. Healing takes time. You feel discouraged. Not because you are wrong, but because you are still healing. Career example. You've made changes, taken steps, but results take time. Growth feels slow. You feel discouraged, but you are still moving forward. Religion example. You've gained understanding. You've shifted perspective, but questions still arise. Growth continues. You feel the weight of the process. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals the journey of transformation can feel difficult, even when you are on the right path. Discouragement doesn't mean you are lost. It often means you are still moving. There will be moments where the path feels long, when the process feels heavy, when progress feels slow. And you may wonder, am I really moving forward? But the truth is you are. Because even when you feel discouraged, you are still on the way. And the way, though it may feel long, is still leading you forward. Verse 5. And the people spoke against God and against Moses. Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no bread, neither is there any water, and our soul loathes this light bread. Spoke against God is resistance against truth. Against Moses is resistance against guidance or inner direction. Egypt represents old identity, bondage, or familiar patterns. Wilderness represents transition states, in between phase. No bread and water means perceived lack of nourishment or truth. Light bread is subtle truth, spiritual sustenance. Loaf is rejection or dissatisfaction. This is what happens when discouragement is not processed. It turns into complaint. The people spoke against God and Moses. This is internal. You begin to question truth. You resist guidance. You doubt the path. You have thoughts like, was this even the right direction? Did I make the right decision? Why did I live where I was? You begin to push against what was leading you. Next line. Why have you brought us out of Egypt? This is powerful. You start to romanticize the past. Even though Egypt was bondage, limitation, and misalignment, it now feels familiar, easier, and safer. To die in the wilderness. The wilderness is the in-between stage. Not who you used to be, and not fully who you are becoming. This stage feels like uncertainty, lack of identity, and discomfort. And it can feel like I'm losing myself. Next line, there is no bread, neither water. This is perception. They feel there is no nourishment, even though they are being sustained. This reflects not recognizing what is already present, overlooking subtle growth. Next, our soul loads this light bread. Light bread equals manna or subtle truth. They are saying, we don't like this. Why? Because it's not dramatic. It's not emotional. It's not intense. Truth is often simple, consistent, and quiet. And the mind used to intensity, chaos, and emotional highs begins to reject it. Relationship example. You've chosen peace, stability, and healthy dynamics. But then, it feels boring. You miss intensity. You question your decision. You begin to reject peace. Career example. You've chosen growth, discipline, and structure. But then, the new role feels repetitive. Progress feels slow. You say, this isn't enough. Religion example. You've moved into clarity and deeper understanding. But then it feels too simple. You miss the intensity of old teachings. You begin to resist truth. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals when the mind is used to intensity, it can reject the simplicity of truth. Not everything that feels exciting is aligned. And not everything that feels simple is lacking. There will be moments when the path feels quiet, when truth feels simple, when growth feels slow, and a voice may rise and say, "This isn't enough." But be careful, because that voice is not clarity. It is discomfort with peace. And if you listen closely, you will realize you are not lacking. You are just no longer living in chaos. And that takes getting used to. Verse 6. And the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and many people of Israel died. The Lord sent means truth allowing consequences to surface. Fiery serpents represent intense, distorted thoughts or reactive reasoning. Serpent represents the reasoning mind, twisted perception. Fiery means emotionally charged or amplified. Beat the people means thoughts affecting you internally. Died is loss of awareness or disconnection from clarity. In the previous verse, they complained, they rejected truth, they loathed what sustained them. Now the effect appears. Next line, fiery serpents. Serpent equals distorted reasoning, not a snake. When mixed with fire, they become intense, emotional, and overwhelming thoughts. Examples: anxiety, fear, overthinking, and negative thought loops. These are not random. They are the result of misaligned perception. Next line, they beat the people. A bite represents impact. These thoughts affect your emotions, influence your actions, and distort your perception. You don't just think them, you feel them. Next, many people died. This is not physical death. This is loss of clarity, disconnection from awareness, and falling back into unconscious patterns. What did Paul say? You were once dead in sins and trespasses, but now made alive in God. So it's not about physical death. This is loss of clarity, disconnection from awareness, and falling back into unconscious patterns. Parts of you that were aware, that were aligned, become inactive. That's the death. Relationship example. When you entertain negative thoughts, assume the worst, and react emotionally, it affects the relationship. What happens? Trust breaks, communication suffers, connection weakens, something dies. Career example. When you dwell in doubt, feed fear, and overthink, it affects your growth. What happens? You hesitate. You don't act. Opportunities pass. Progress dies. Religion example. When you return to fear-based thinking, when you reject clarity, you feel confusion, anxiety, and instability. Awareness dims. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals distorted thinking doesn't just exist, it affects your entire experience. What you allow in your mind will eventually shape how you live. The Lord sent. This is truth allowing a consequence to be experienced, not God creating harm or God attacking you. But what happens when you move out of alignment with truth? Think of it this way. When the text says God sent the serpents, it is describing a law of consciousness, not an act of punishment. Like if you touch fire, you get burned. If you entertain distorted thinking, it affects you. You reap what you sow. The sending is not intentional harm. It is natural consequence revealed. Why it's written this way? Ancient language often attributes everything to God. So instead of saying, this is the result of misalignment, it says, the Lord sent. Because God equals the ultimate source or governing principle. What does serpent really represent? Serpent equals distorted reasoning. Fiery means emotionally charged. So this is showing when truth is rejected, distorted thinking becomes intense, and that feels like it came upon you. Relatable example. When someone overthinks, assumes the worst, and feeds fear, it can feel like, why is this happening to me? But in reality, those thoughts were allowed, entertained, and amplified. Instead of reading God sent something to hurt them, read it as when alignment with truth is lost, distorted thinking takes hold and produces its effect. Descending is not punishment. It is the revealing of what is already within. God does not work against you. Truth reveals what is not aligned within you. It only looks like God is sending the serpent because the language is symbolic. But what it is really showing is you cannot step out of alignment with truth and remain unaffected. Not because you are being punished, but because truth is consistent. And once you see it this way, the fear disappears and the message becomes clear. This is not about a God harming you. It's about awareness showing you what happens when the mind moves out of alignment. This is the Genesis 2 and 3 pattern. What did God tell Adam? The day you eat of it, you shall surely die. Truth is showing you what happens when the mind moves out of alignment. Verse 7. Therefore, the people came to Moses and said, we have sinned. For we have spoken against the Lord and against thee. Pray unto the Lord that he take away the serpent from us. And Moses prayed for the people. Came to Moses means returning to inner guidance or awareness. We have sinned is recognition of misalignment, not moral guilt. Spoken against the Lord means resisted truth. Spoken against thee, Moses, means resisted guidance or clarity. Take away the serpent means the desire to be free from distorted thinking. Moses prayed its awareness realigning with truth on your behalf. This is the moment where you recognize what happened. The people came to Moses. They returned to awareness and guidance. Instead of reacting, blaming, and staying in distortion, they turn inward. We have sinned. Sin here means missing the mark, not guilt or shame. But we moved out of alignment. We didn't see clearly. This is honest awareness. Next, we have spoken against the Lord and against thee. They now see the problem wasn't external, it was internal resistance. They resisted truth and they rejected guidance, and now they acknowledge it. Next, take away the serpent. They want relief from the effect, relief from the overthinking, the fear, and the emotional turmoil. They want the symptoms gone. But here's the deeper insight. They are still asking for removal, not yet understanding transformation. Moses prayed for the people. Moses equals awareness. So awareness now intercedes. Meaning, clarity begins to return. Alignment begins to restore. The process of healing begins. Relationship example. After reacting emotionally, after overthinking, you pause and say, that wasn't right. You reflect. You take responsibility. You shift your perspective. That's returning to Moses. Career example. After fear, doubt, and hesitation, you recognize I'm holding myself back. And you reset, refocus, and realign. That's awareness returning. Religion example. After confusion and fear-based thinking, you realize I moved away from clarity and you return to truth, understanding, and awareness. That's the shift. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals healing begins the moment you recognize misalignment. Awareness doesn't condemn you, it brings you back. You may drift, you may react, you may lose clarity for a moment. But the moment you say, I see it now, everything begins to shift. Not because you are punished, but because you have returned to awareness And awareness always leads you back to alignment. Verse 8. And the Lord said unto Moses, Make thee a fiery serpent, and set it upon a pole. And it shall come to pass, that every one that is bitten, when he looketh upon it, shall live. The Lord said, This is truth revealing the solution. Moses represents awareness or inner guidance. Fiery serpents represent distorted thinking now made visible. Pole, tree or structure, represents framework or elevated perspective. Set it upon a pole means lift it into awareness. Look upon it is conscious observation. Shall live means restoration of awareness or healing. Before this, distorted thoughts, serpents, were biting. Awareness dimmed. People wanted the problem removed. But the solution is not removal. The solution is revelation. Make a fiery serpent. This is shocking at first. Why recreate the problem? Because you cannot heal what you refuse to see. The serpent now represents your thoughts, your fears, and your distortions brought into clear awareness. Set it upon a pole. The pole represents structure plus elevation. This is lifting the issue above emotion, seeing it from a higher perspective, placing it where it can be observed clearly, not buried, not avoided, but elevated into view. When he looketh upon it, this is the key. Not fight it, not suppress it, not run from it, but look at it. Observe the thought. Observe the pattern. Observe the fear without reacting, without identifying with it. Just see it clearly. Shall live. This is healing. Not because the serpent disappeared, but because your relationship to it changed. It no longer controls you. It no longer bites you. It no longer defines you. Awareness is restored. Relationship example. You feel jealousy, insecurity, and fear. Instead of reacting, you observe. You say, this is fear. This is my thought. And it loses power. Career example. You feel self-doubt and fear of failure. Instead of avoiding it, you look at it. This is a thought, not truth. Clarity returns. Religion example. You feel fear-based beliefs. Instead of suppressing them, you examine them. Where did this come from? Is this true? And they dissolve. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals healing comes not by removing the problem, but by seeing it clearly. What you bring into awareness loses its power to control you. You don't need to run from your thoughts. You don't need to fight your patterns. You need to see them. Because the moment you observe, recognize, and understand, you are no longer trapped. And what once beat you becomes something you can now look at without fear. And in that moment, you live. Verse 9. And Moses made a serpent of brass and put it upon a pole. And it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, when he beheld the serpent of the brass, he lived. Moses made. This is awareness actively applying truth. Serpent of brass means refined or clarified perception of distorted thinking. Brass or bronze represents strength, refinement through fire or stability. Pole represents elevated structure or higher perspective. Bitten means affected by thoughts or emotions. Beheld is conscious observation. Lived is restoration, clarity, and alignment. In the previous verse, the solution was revealed. Now it is put into practice. Moses made. Awareness doesn't just receive truth, it acts on it. This is you taking what you've realized and applying it intentionally. This is conscious living. Serpent of brass. This is no longer wild, reactive, and uncontrolled. The serpent, distorted thinking, is now refined and understood. Brass represents something processed, something stabilized, something no longer chaotic. Your thoughts are no longer controlling you. You are seeing them clearly. Next line, put it upon a pole. Again, elevation. You are lifting your thoughts above emotion. You are observing instead of reacting. You are no longer inside the pattern. You are aware of it. When he beheld, not glanced, beheld. This means sustained awareness and intentional observation. This is staying present with what you see. He lived. This is the result. Not the serpent disappearing, but your freedom from its control. You regain clarity, regain peace, regain alignment. You live again. Relationship example. You feel triggered. Instead of reacting, you pause and observe. This is fear. This is insecurity. And the reaction loses power. Career example. You feel doubt. Instead of stopping, you recognize it. This is a thought, not reality, and you move forward anyway. Religion example. You feel fear. Instead of believing it, you examine it. Is this true? Clarity returns. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals awareness, when consistently applied, transforms your experience. What once controlled you loses power the moment you see it clearly. The serpent didn't disappear. You changed your relationship to it, and that changed everything. Because when you observe instead of react, when you see instead of fear, when you understand instead of resist, you step out of the pattern. And the moment you step out, you are no longer bound. And that is what it means to live. Verse 10. And the children of Israel set forward and pitched in Obath. Set forward. This is moving again, continuing the journey. Children of Israel represents aspects of your awakened identity. Pitched or camp represents pausing, stabilizing in a new state. Oboth is transitional space, a stage in the journey. After healing, you don't stay in the same place. You move forward. You continue growing. You keep evolving. They set forward. This is important. Healing is not the end. It is part of the journey. You don't stop growing. You don't stop learning. You continue. Pitched or camped. This represents integration. You pause to settle into what you've learned, to stabilize your awareness, and to embody the change. Growth requires both movement and stillness. Oboth, it represents a new stage, not where you started, not where you will end, but a point along the way. Relationship example. After healing, clarity, and growth, you don't go back. You move forward. And you take time to stabilize emotionally, understand yourself, and build new patterns. That's camping in Oboth. Career example. After overcoming fear and gaining clarity, you take new steps. You grow gradually. You settle into new habits, not rushing, but progressing. Religion example. After deeper understanding and releasing fear, you continue exploring. You deepen awareness and stabilize your perspective. Growth continues. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals transformation is a journey, not a single event. Every breakthrough is followed by a new step. You faced the challenge. You saw clearly. You applied awareness. You experienced healing. And now you move forward, not rushed, not pressured, but steady. Because growth is not about arriving instantly. It is about continuing. And every step forward becomes part of who you are becoming. Verse 11. And they journeyed from Oboth and pitched at Abarim in the wilderness, which is before Moab toward the sun rising. Journey from Oboth. This is moving beyond the last level of integration. Pitch at Abarim is entering a new state of awareness. This is crossing or transition. Wilderness is the ongoing process of transformation. Before Moab is near previously formed patterns. Moab equals earlier result of distortion. Toward the sun rising is moving toward illumination, toward clarity or higher awareness. You faced distortion, experienced healing, stabilized your awareness. Now you continue forward with direction. The journey from Oboth. You don't stay at one level forever. Even after healing, clarity, and rest, growth continues. Pitch at Abarim. Abarim carries the sense of crossing over or passing through. This represents transitioning into deeper awareness, moving beyond previous limitations. You are not the same as before. In the wilderness, you are still in process. Even with clarity, you are still evolving, still refining, and still learning. The wilderness is not failure, it is formation. Before Moab, Moab represents patterns that were produced from distortion. Moab represents patterns that were produced from distortion. Now you are near it, but not in it. You can see it, recognize it, and understand it, but you are no longer controlled by it. Next, toward the sun rising. This is the key direction. You are moving toward light, toward clarity, toward full awareness. This means your focus has shifted. Your direction is intentional. You are no longer wandering aimlessly. You are moving toward illumination. Relationship example. You've healed. Now you can see old patterns, which is Moab, but you don't repeat them. You are moving toward healthier dynamics and clearer boundaries. Career example. You've grown. Now, you recognize limiting patterns, but you don't operate from them. You are moving toward purpose, clarity, and direction. Religion example. You've gained understanding. Now, you see old beliefs clearly, but you are not bound by them. You are moving toward deeper truth and clearer awareness. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals growth is not just movement. It is movement in the right direction. You may still be in the process, but now you know where you are going. You are still journeying. You are still becoming. You are still unfolding, but you are moving toward the light. And even if you pass by what once defined you, it no longer holds you because your direction has changed. And once your direction changes, your destination changes too. Verse 12. From thence they removed and pitched in the valley of Zered. Remove means letting go, leaving the previous stage. Pitched or camped is pausing, stabilizing, integrating. Valley represents low place, introspection, humility, and inner depth. Zered means separation, cutting away, or refinement. You've been moving forward, gaining clarity, heading toward light. Now you enter a valley. They removed. This shows progress continues. You don't stay in past understanding. You don't stay in previous levels. You keep moving. Pitched in the valley. This is different from the mountain. The valley represents going inward. This is where you reflect, process, and become honest with yourself. It's quieter, deeper, and more personal. Zered. Zered carries the idea of cutting off, separating, or refining. This is a place where unnecessary patterns are removed, where deeper attachments are examined, and subtle habits are released, not through force, but through awareness and reflection. What this stage feels like. This is not dramatic, not intense. It's subtle. You may feel introspective, quiet, and reflective. Like, I see more now. I'm letting go of things I didn't even notice before. This is refinement. Relationship example. You've already left unhealthy patterns. Now in the valley, you reflect on deeper habits. You release subtle emotional attachments. You become more grounded. Career example. You've moved forward. Now you refine your mindset. You remove hidden limiting beliefs. Growth becomes more internal. Religion example. You've gained clarity. Now, you examine deeper assumptions. You let go of subtle fears. Your understanding becomes more refined. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals growth is not always upward. Sometimes it is inward. The valley is not a setback. It is a place of refinement. Not every step is a mountain. Not every stage feels like elevation. Sometimes growth looks like stillness, reflection, and quiet release. And in those moments, even though it feels lower, you are actually going deeper. And what is refined in the valley becomes strength on the mountain. Verse 13. From thence they removed and pitched on the other side of Arnon, for Arnon is the border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites. Remove means continued progression, leaving the previous stage. Other side of Arnon is crossing a boundary or transition point. Arnon, river or border, represents separation, discernment, and division. Moab, past patterns formed from distortion, what was produced. Amorites represents deep-rooted thought structures or dominant belief systems. Border represents line of awareness, knowing what belongs and what doesn't. You've moved through healing, processed in the valley, refined your awareness. Now you arrive at a boundary. Other side of Anon. Anon represents discernment, a place where you separate truth from distortion, where you recognize what aligns and what doesn't. Crossing it means you are no longer confused. You now see clearly. You choose intentionally. Border of Moab. Moab equals patterns previously produced from distortion. Now you are at the edge of it. You can see those patterns. You can recognize them, but you are not inside them anymore. Next, between Moab and the Amorites. This is deep. You are now positioned between two systems. Moab, past results and old expressions. And Amorites, deeper structures and underlying belief systems. You are at the line between surface patterns and root causes. What this stage represents? This is where you stop just changing behavior and begin understanding the root of everything. You ask, why did I think this way? Where did this pattern come from? What belief created this? This is advanced awareness. Relationship example. Before, you changed patterns. Now you understand the root. Attachment styles, emotional conditioning, and deeper beliefs. You no longer just react, you understand. Career example. Before, you changed habits. Now you examine beliefs. Why do I doubt myself? Where does this fear come from? You move from action to insight. Religion example. Before, you shifted understanding. Now you question foundations. Where did these beliefs originate? What shaped this thinking? You go deeper than surface interpretation. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals true transformation happens when you move from surface patterns to understanding their root. Discernment is not just knowing what is wrong, it is understanding why it exists. You have come far. You have seen patterns, released behaviors, grown in awareness, and now you stand at a boundary where you no longer just change what you do, but understand what created it. And once you see the root, everything else becomes clear. Because when the root is understood, transformation becomes complete. Verse 14. Therefore, it is said in the book of the words of the Lord, what he did in the Red Sea and in the brooks of Arnon. Book of the words of the Lord represents record of inner battles or lived experience. Words are internal conflicts, struggles between truth and distortion. Lord God represents truth or higher awareness. Red Sea is separation from the old identity. Brooks of Anon is ongoing discernment or boundary awareness. This verse shifts from experience to reflection on experience. The book of the words of the Lord. It represents your memory, your experiences, and your inner record of growth. The wars are not external fights, but internal struggles. Old versus new. Fear versus clarity. Distortion versus truth. Every moment you chose truth was part of that war. Why wars? Because transformation is not passive. It involves tension, resistance, and decisions. It feels like a battle internally. Next line, what he did in the Red Sea. This points back to separation from the old self, leaving Egypt bondage and crossing into a new identity. That was a major turning point. Next line, and in the brooks of Anon. This brings it to the present stage, discernment and boundaries. Knowing what aligns and knowing what doesn't. You now understand both, where you came from and where you stand now. What this verse is doing, it is showing your journey is not random. There is a pattern, separation, struggle, discernment, and growth, and it can be understood. Relationship example. You can now look back and see where you were, what you went through, and what you overcame. You understand your walls. Career example. You reflect on your struggles, your growth, and your decisions. You see the process clearly. Religion example. You recognize your old beliefs, your shift in understanding, and your journey into clarity. You see the transformation. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals your struggles are not meaningless. They are part of your transformation story. Every battle you face within became part of your understanding. There is a book within you, a record of what you faced, what you've learned, and what you've overcome. And when you look back, you won't just see struggle, you will see growth, because every inner battle shaped who you are becoming. And now you begin to understand it. You are the book. Verse 15. And at the stream of the brooks that goeth down to the dwelling of Ar, and lieth upon the border of Moab. Stream of the brooks means flow of awareness, ongoing understanding. Goeth down is movement into deeper levels, not regression, but depth. Dwelling of Ar means established state, where awareness settles. Border of Moab represents edge of past patterns. Moab equals former distorted outcomes. Before this, you saw your battles. You recognized your journey. You stood at the boundary, Anon. Now, awareness begins to flow consistently. Stream of the brooks. This is not a flood. It's a steady flow. This represents continuous understanding, ongoing clarity, and natural awareness. You are no longer forcing insight. It flows. What does Jesus say? Out of your belly shall flow rivers of living waters. That goeth down. Down here doesn't mean lower consciousness. It means deeper integration. Awareness moves into deeper thoughts, deeper patterns, and deeper layers of identity. You begin to understand things at the root level. Dwelling of R. This represents a place where awareness settles. You are no longer just visiting clarity, no longer just having moments of insight. You begin to live from it. Awareness becomes stable, natural, and consistent. Next, border of Moab. Moab equals past patterns. Now, you are right at the edge of them. You can see them. You understand them, but you are not inside them. You are no longer controlled by them. What this stage feels like? This is maturity. You understand your patterns deeply. You see things clearly. You respond with awareness without being pulled back in. Relationship example. You now recognize triggers immediately. You understand emotional patterns. You respond with clarity. You are no longer reacting unconsciously. Career example. You now understand your fears. You recognize limiting beliefs. You act intentionally. Growth becomes natural. Religion example. You now understand symbolism deeply. You see beyond surface meaning. You remain grounded in clarity. Your awareness is stable. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals awareness, when matured, becomes a steady flow, not a temporary insight. True growth is not in moments of clarity, but in living from that clarity consistently. You are no longer fighting constantly, no longer struggling intensely. Now you are flowing. Your awareness moves naturally. Your awareness settles deeply. Your awareness remains steady. And even when you stand near what once defined you, it no longer holds you, because you are no longer just aware. You are established in awareness. Verse 16. And from thence they went to Beer. That is the word whereof the Lord spake unto Moses. Gather the people together, and I will give them water. Beer or well represents source, inner reservoir, place of supply. Well represents deep, consistent access to truth or awareness. Lord spoke is truth revealing provision. Moses is awareness guiding the process. Gather the people means bringing all parts of yourself into alignment. I will give them water means nourishment, clarity, life-giving understanding. Earlier in the journey, they complained of no water. They felt lack. They rejected what was already present. Now, they are led to the source itself. Beer, the well. A well is not temporary like rain. It is sustained supply. This represents inner clarity, consistent awareness, and access to truth within. You no longer depend on external validation or temporary insight. You have a source within you. The Lord spoke unto Moses. Truth reveals you don't lack, you just haven't accessed it. This is guidance saying, go deeper. Gather the people together. It means bring all parts of yourself into alignment. Your thoughts, emotions, and actions, no division, no inner conflict. When everything aligns, the source becomes accessible. I will give them water. Notice, the water is not created. It is given or revealed. This means clarity was always available. Awareness was always present. You just had to reach the right place within. Relationship example. Before, you felt lack. You sought validation externally. Now, you feel whole. You understand yourself. You no longer depend on others for completion. You love yourself. You have found your well. Career example. Before, you felt uncertain. You relied on external direction. Now, clarity comes from within. You trust your path. You operate from inner confidence. Religion example. Before, you depended on external teaching. You felt confused. Now, understanding flows naturally. Truth feels internal. You have access to your own awareness. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals what you thought you lacked was always within you. You don't find truth outside. You uncover it within. You once said, there is no water, but now you see, you were standing above a well, and all it took was alignment, awareness, and willingness to go deeper. And now, you don't just receive water, you live from the source. Verse 17. Then Israel sang this song, Spring up, O well, sing ye unto it. Israel sang. This is expression of alignment, joy, and awareness. Song represents internal harmony, agreement with truth. Spring up, O well, is activation of the inner source. Sing unto it is acknowledgement, appreciation, and conscious engagement. This is a complete shift from resistance to alignment. Israel sang. Earlier, they complained. They resisted. They spoke against truth. Now, their voice changes. They are no longer reacting, no longer doubting. They are aligned and expressive. This song, a song represents inner harmony, Your thoughts, emotions, and awareness are now in agreement. No more inner conflict, no more contradiction, just flow. Spring up, oh well. The well source is already there, but now it is activated. This means awareness flows freely, clarity rises naturally, understanding becomes effortless. You are no longer searching, you are experiencing. Sing ye unto it. This is acknowledgement. You are recognizing the source, appreciating it, and engaging with it consciously. Gratitude amplifies awareness. Relationship example. Before, you felt lack. You complained. Now, you feel fulfilled. You appreciate what you have. Your energy shifts from need to wholeness. Career example. Before, you doubted. You felt stuck. Now, you see opportunity. You appreciate growth. You operate from confidence. Religion example. Before, confusion and dependency. Now, clarity and internal understanding. Truth feels alive within you. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals when you recognize the source within you, your expression shifts from complaint to gratitude. What you once searched for becomes something you now celebrate. You once said, "There is no water." Now you sing, "Spring up." Nothing changed externally. You change internally. And when you change, everything feels different because the source was never missing. It was waiting to be recognized. And now that you see it, it flows. Verse 18. The princes dug the well. The nobles of the people dug it by the direction of the lawgiver with their staffs. And from the wilderness they went to Matana. Princes or nobles represent higher faculties, elevated aspects of awareness. Dug the well is active engagement, going within to access truth. Direction of the lawgiver is guidance of truth, inner order, and alignment. Staffs, staff or pole, represent structure, authority, and disciplined awareness. Wilderness is transition state, the process of becoming. Matana is gift, or realization, or receiving. Previously, the well was revealed. The people recognized it. They began to celebrate it. Now they participate in it. The princes dug the well. Princes represent your higher awareness. This is no longer survival thinking or emotional reaction. This is intentional consciousness. You begin to seek truth within. You engage with awareness. You explore deeply. Dug the well. This is key. The well is already there, but you must dig. Meaning, you must reflect. You must observe and go deeper. Awareness is accessed through intentional engagement. By the direction of the lawgiver, The lawgiver represents truth or order or inner alignment. You are not digging randomly. You are guided by clarity, understanding, and truth. There is structure to your growth. With their staff or pole represents structure, disciplined awareness. This is consistency, intentional focus, and grounded presence, not scattered thinking, but steady engagement. From the wilderness to Matana, this is powerful. Matana means gift. After confusion, process, and transition, you arrive at realization. You begin to experience clarity as natural, experience truth as accessible, and awareness as a gift. Relationship example. You no longer seek validation. You now understand yourself. You reflect deeply. You respond consciously, and the result feels like a gift. Career example. You no longer operate from fear. You now think clearly. You act intentionally. You trust your process. Growth becomes rewarding. Religion example. You no longer depend externally. You now access understanding within. You now engage with truth personally. Awareness becomes a living experience. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals truth is within you, but it is revealed through intentional awareness. The well is given, but it is also uncovered. You were in the wilderness, searching, questioning, becoming, and then you found the well. But not by accident, by engagement, by awareness, and by going deeper. And what you found was not something new. It was something that was always there. And now it feels like a gift because truth, when experienced, is always received that way. Numbers 21, verse 19 to 20. And from Matana to Nahalel, and from Nahalel to Bamoth, and from Bamoth to the top of Pisgah, which looketh toward Jeshimon. Matan represents gift. This is realization that truth is within. Awareness feels like something received. Nahalel, stream or flow of God. Awareness begins to flow naturally. Clarity is no longer forced. You don't search, you see. Bamoth, high places. This is elevated thinking and stable higher awareness. You begin to live above old patterns. Pisgah represents high vantage point. This is clear vision, perspective, and seeing the whole journey. Jeshimon, wilderness or desolate place. What once felt empty or confusing, now seen from clarity. This is a full transformation arc. You received awareness, Matana. This is a gift. I see something now. Awareness began to flow. Nahalel, understanding comes naturally. You became elevated, Bamoth. I no longer think or react the same way. You gain perspective, Pisgah. I see everything clearly now. You can now look at your past, Jeshimon, without confusion, without fear, without attachment. Top of Pisgah, look at toward Jeshimon. This is powerful. You are now at a place where you can see your past clearly. Not like before, not confused, emotional, or reactive, but from awareness. You see what you went through, why it happened, how it shaped you, and it no longer controls you. Relationship example. You look back at past relationships, patterns, and experiences. Now, you understand them. You are not triggered. You see the lessons. That's Pisgah. Career example. You look back at your struggles and your growth. Now, you see the path clearly. You understand your journey. Clarity replaces confusion. Religion example. You look back at old beliefs and old teachings. Now, you understand them symbolically. You are no longer bound by them. Awareness is stable. The deeper revelation. This sequence reveals awareness begins as a gift, flows naturally, elevates your mind, and eventually gives you clear vision. The goal is not just to see, but to see from a higher place. You started searching, questioning, and wondering. Now, you stand at a place where you can see it all, not from confusion, but from clarity, not from pain, but from understanding. And the wilderness that once felt empty now becomes something you can look at and finally say, I understand. And that is the view from Pisgah. Numbers 21, verse 21. And Israel sent messengers unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, saying, Israel represents awakened identity, the conscious self. Sent messengers is intentional communication, conscious engagement. Sihon, the king, represents ruling thought system, dominant belief structure. Amorite represents deep-rooted patterns, foundational conditioning. Before this, you saw your patterns, Moab. You gained perspective, Pisgah. Now you approach the roots of it all. Israel sent messengers. This is important. You are no longer reacting, avoiding, and suppressing. You are engaging consciously. Messengers represent thoughts guided by awareness, intentional inquiry, clarity speaking. You begin to question your beliefs, examine your thinking, and engage your inner world with awareness. Sihon, king of the Amorite. Sihon represents a ruling system within you, not surface level patterns, but deep structures like identity beliefs, core assumptions, and long-standing conditioning. The Amorites symbolize deeply rooted mental frameworks. These are not easily changed, not easily seen, but they shape everything. What this stage means. This is where you move from what am I doing to why do I think this way. You begin to confront your core beliefs, Examine your identity and challenge what has been ruling you. Relationship example. Before, you changed behaviors. Now, you question beliefs like, why do I fear abandonment? Why do I attach this way? You engage the root. Career example. Before, you changed habits. Now, you question, why do I doubt myself? What belief is driving this? You go deeper. Religion example. Before, you change understanding. Now, you question, where did this belief come from? What has been shaping my perception? You engage the foundation. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals awareness eventually confronts the systems that once ruled it. True transformation happens when you stop avoiding your patterns and begin to engage them consciously. You have seen, healed, grown, and gained clarity. And now you are ready to face the root, not with fear, but with awareness. And when awareness begins to speak, everything that once ruled you is about to be revealed. Verse 22. Let me pass through thy land. We will not turn into the fields. We will go by the king's highway. I want you to pay attention to something here. It started with, let me, singular, pass through thy land. Then we will. This is not random. It shows transformation begins with the individual awareness and is carried out by all parts of the self. Let me pass, singular. This is the voice of awareness. It represents the central identity, the conscious I, the one who sees. This is the moment where you recognize truth. You make the decision. You take responsibility. This is the same pattern as my hand. We will not, plural. Now the rest follows. This represents all aspects of you, your thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and habits. Once the I decides, everything else begins to align. What this reveals? There is a structure within you. The one, awareness, it sees, decides, and leads. The many, inner faculties, they follow, they align, they express their decision. The one initiates, the many execute. Next line, we will go by the king's highway. This is alignment. Once awareness leads, the whole system moves in. Clarity, discipline, and order. No deviation, no distractions, no compromise, just direct alignment with truth. Relationship example. You decide, singular, I will not tolerate this anymore. Then your actions, your boundaries, and responses, plural, follow. You speak differently. You act differently. You choose differently. Career example. You decide, I will grow and move forward. Then your habits align. There is consistency, discipline, and action. Religion example. You realize truth is within me. Then your thinking, interpretation, and understanding align. The deeper revelation. This shift reveals awareness speaks as one, but transformation is expressed through many parts of you. The moment the I becomes clear, everything else begins to follow. There is a voice within you that says, let me. And when that voice is clear, everything else responds, we will. And in that alignment, there is no confusion, no contradiction, no division, just a unified movement forward. And that is what it means to walk in alignment. Verse 23. And Sihon would not suffer Israel to pass through his border, and he fought against Israel. Sihon would not allow. This is resistance from deep-rooted beliefs. Border represents boundary of identity or territory of thought. Gathered all his people is reinforcement of supporting patterns. Went out into the wilderness is bringing conflict into your present awareness. Jehaz is confrontation point where awareness meets resistance. Fought against Israel is internal conflict. Before this, awareness approached the root system. It attempted alignment, let me pass. Now the system resists. Sihon will not suffer Israel to pass. This is powerful. Some beliefs don't yield easily. They don't dissolve instantly. They say, no, you can't change this. This is who you are. These are identity level patterns and deeply embedded conditioning. He gathered all his people. This is key. When one belief is challenged, it brings reinforcement, supporting thoughts, past experiences, and emotional memories. Everything rises to defend it. Went out against Israel into the wilderness. This shows the conflict becomes active and present. You begin to feel strong resistance, inner tension, and mental conflict. Not hidden anymore, but confronting you directly. Next line, fought against Israel. This is internal warfare. You feel pulled in two directions. Old thinking versus new awareness. Thoughts like, what if I'm wrong? Maybe I should go back. This is the fight. Relationship example. You try to change your patterns, set boundaries, but then old emotions rise. Attachment patterns resist. You feel the conflict. Career example. You try to grow. You try to step into something new, but fear intensifies. Self-doubt increases. Resistance fights back. Religion example. You try to shift your understanding, but old beliefs push harder. Fear-based thinking resurfaces. The system defends itself. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals the deeper the pattern, the stronger the resistance when it is challenged. Resistance is not a sign you are wrong. It is a sign you are touching something real. You asked to pass. You approached with clarity. You chose alignment. And now, something within you says no. Not because you can't move forward, but because you've reached the root. And roots don't release easily. But here's the truth. What resists you is what is ready to be transformed. And this fight is not your defeat. It is your doorway. Verse 24. And Israel smote him with the edge of the sword and possessed his land. Did you catch something here too? Not their land, but his land. What this reveals, even though Sion had people, the king had people, many supporting thoughts, there was one central ruler. This means many patterns, but one root system governing them. It should have said they possessed their land, right? I said his. Many patterns, but one root system governing them. His land, singular. This represents the territory is controlled by one dominant belief. Everything within that land, thoughts, reactions, and habits were all operating under one ruling identity structure. Next line, smote him with the edge of the sword. Sword equals discernment. The word of the Lord is like a double-edged sword. Sword equals discernment. This means you saw clearly. You cut through illusion. You separated truth from distortion, not by force, but by clarity. Next, possess his land. This is powerful. You don't just remove the pattern, you reclaim the space it occupied. Meaning, where fear existed, clarity now lives. Where doubt ruled, confidence now operates. The territory become yours. From Anon unto Jabbok, this shows the range of transformation. From discernment, Anon, to deeper inner processing. Jabbok equals wrestling or inner struggle. The transformation covers a full spectrum. Next line, for the border of Ammon was strong. This is important. Not everything is taken at once. Ammon represents another layer of pattern from Moab earlier. Some boundaries remain, not because you failed, but because growth is progressive. Relationship example. You realize one core belief, like I am not enough. That belief controlled your choices, your attachments, and your reactions. When that belief is broken, everything tied to it changes. Career example: you confront I'm not capable. That one belief affected your confidence, your decisions, and your growth. When you dismantle it, your entire career path shifts. Religion example: you confront God is against me. That belief shaped fear, interpretation, and understanding. When it falls, everything becomes clear. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals transformation doesn't happen by fixing many things, but by confronting the one thing that rules them all. Behind many patterns, there is often one belief holding them together. You may see many struggles, many patterns, and many reactions, but beneath them, there is often one root. And when that root is seen clearly and cut through with discernment, everything connected to it begins to fall. And the space it once occupied becomes yours. Not because you forced it, but because you finally saw it. And that is how deep transformation happens. Verse 25. And Israel took all these cities, and Israel dwelt in all the cities of the Amorites, in Heshbon, and in all the villages thereof. Israel took. Awareness reclaimed territory. Cities represent structured patterns or belief systems. Dwelt is established or lived experience. Cities of the Amorites represent former deep-rooted systems. Heshbon represents reasoning, calculation, and thought processing. Villages represent smaller patterns or subtle habits. Previously, you confronted the root, Sihon. You dismantled the ruling belief. You reclaimed the territory. Now you live in it. Israel took all these cities. This means transformation is comprehensive, not just one area, not just one habit, but the entire system connected to it. Israel dwelled. This is the key shift. You don't just visit clarity or experience it temporarily, you live from it. Awareness becomes natural, stable, and consistent. Next, Heshbon. Heshbon represents how you think. Before, reasoning was distorted, thoughts were reactive. Now, your thinking is aligned. You process clearly. You interpret accurately. You respond intentionally. Next, villages thereof. This represents smaller patterns, not just big beliefs, but subtle habits like reactions, assumptions, and automatic responses. Now, even these are aligned. Relationship example. Before, Patterns controlled you. Now, you think clearly. You respond intentionally. You maintain boundaries. It becomes your normal. Career example. Before, fear shaped decisions. Now, clarity leads. Confidence stabilizes. Growth becomes consistent. Religion example. Before, confusion influenced understanding. Now, truth feels natural. Awareness is stable. You no longer struggle to see. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals true transformation is not just overcoming, it is living from a new level of awareness. It is one thing to see truth, it is another to dwell in it. You have seen clearly, confronted deeply, and overcome fully. And now you remain not in effort, not in struggle, but in alignment. Because what was once difficult has now become your nature. And the place that once held you now holds you differently. Because it is no longer ruled by old patterns, it is now governed by awareness. And that is what it means to dwell in truth. Verse 26. For Heshbon was the city of Sihon, who had fought against the former king of Moab and taken all his land. Heshbon city represents reasoning system or mental framework. Sihon the king represents dominant ruling belief. Amorite represents deep-rooted conditioning. Former king of Moab represents previous pattern or outcome system. Fought and took land means one pattern overtaking another. Land represents territory of thought, influence, and identity. This verse is saying, the system you just overcame was built on a previous system. Heshbon was the city of Sihon. Your reasoning, Heshbon, was ruled by a dominant belief, Sihon. But that belief didn't appear randomly. Next line, he had fought against the former king of Moab. This is deep. Before Sihon ruled, Moab ruled. Meaning, one pattern replaced another. This shows patterns evolve. Beliefs shift over time. One system can dominate another. But the root issue remains misalignment at the foundation. Taking all his land. This means the new belief system took full control. It shaped thinking. It influenced identity. It governed perception. Until now, when awareness stepped in, your current patterns are not isolated. They are built from past experiences, shaped by earlier beliefs, and layered over time. One pattern replaces another until truth is introduced. Relationship example. You may think, this is just how I am. But in reality, one experience shaped a belief, and that belief shaped another pattern. It's layered. Career example. You may feel, I've always been this way, but past experiences, past failures, and past conditioning built your current mindset. Religion example. You may believe this is truth, but teachings, interpretations, and influences shaped your understanding over time. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals what you are overcoming today was built from layers of past patterns. Your present patterns have a history, and understanding that history brings deeper freedom. Nothing within you appeared overnight. Every belief, every reaction, and every pattern was formed over time. And now, as you become aware, you don't just change what you see, you understand where it came from. And when you understand the origin, you gain even deeper freedom. Because what is understood no longer has hidden power. And that is how transformation becomes complete. Verse 27. Therefore, those who speak in Proverbs say, come into Heshbon, let the city of Sihon be built and prepared. Those who speak in Proverbs represent wisdom or symbolic communication. Come into Heshbon means enter a reasoning system. City of Sihon means structured mindsets ruled by a dominant belief. Built and prepared means established, reinforced, developed over time. This verse is revealing how belief systems are formed and strengthened. Those who speak in Proverbs. Proverbs equals symbolic layered communication. This means what follows is not instruction. It is observation of how systems are built. Come into Heshbon. Heshbon equals reasoning system. This is like saying, enter this way of thinking. This is how beliefs form. You accept an idea. You begin to think from it. You step into its logic. You enter the system. Let the city of Sihon be built. Once you enter, the system is constructed. Thoughts align with it. Patterns form around it. Behaviors follow it. It becomes a mental structure. Built and prepared. This is reinforcement. The system becomes strong, stable, and automatic through repetition, experience, and emotional reinforcement. It becomes your normal. Relationship example. A belief forms, love is painful. You enter that belief. Then you interpret actions through it. You respond based on it. You attract similar experiences. The system builds itself. Career example. A belief forms. I'm not good enough. You enter it. Then you hesitate. You doubt. You limit yourself. The structure becomes strong. Religion example. A belief forms. God is against me. You enter it. Then fear increases. Interpretation shifts. Understanding narrows. The system is reinforced. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals belief systems are not accidental. They are built through repeated thought and acceptance. What you enter mentally, you eventually build your life around. Every system you live in started with a thought, an idea, something you accepted. And once you stepped into it, it began to build itself around you. But here's the power. If a system can be built, it can also be dismantled. And that is what awareness is doing. Verse 28. For there is a fire gone out of Heshbon, a flame from the city of Sihon. It had consumed Ar of Moab, and the lords of the high places of Arnon. Fire from Heshbon means energy of a belief system, active influence. Flame from Sihon is expression of the ruling thought pattern. Consume means took over, dominated, or replaced. Ar of Moab is former pattern. Moab equals previous distorted outcomes. Lords of high places, Arnon, represent areas of influence, authority within the mind. Once the system Heshbon is built, it doesn't stay contained. It begins to spread, influence, and take over other areas. Fire gone out of Heshbon. Fire here is not distraction. It is activation. This is the energy of a belief. How it spreads, how it affects everything, and how it becomes dominant. One belief can influence many areas. Flame from the city of Sihon. Sihon, the ruling belief, expresses itself through the system. This means your thoughts reflect it. Your reactions reflect it. Your behavior reflects it. The root belief begins to show up everywhere. Next line, it had consumed Ar of Moab. Moab, earlier patterns are overtaken. This shows one system can replace another. Example, one belief replaces a previous one, but both are still rooted in misalignment. The form changes, but the root issue remains. Lords of the high places of Arnon. These represent areas of authority in your thinking, places where decisions are made and where perception is formed. The system influences even your highest reasoning. What this reveals: A belief system doesn't stay isolated. It affects how you think, how you feel, how you respond, and how you interpret everything. It becomes all encompassing. Relationship example. A belief like I can't trust people spreads into communication, emotional response, and expectations. It affects everything. Career example. A belief like I'm not capable spreads into decisions, opportunities, and performance. It shapes your entire experience. Religion example. A belief like God is harsh spreads into interpretation, fear, and understanding. It defines your perception. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals one belief system, once established, can influence every area of your life. What rules your thinking will eventually shape your entire reality. It started with a thought, then it became a system, and now it spreads, touching your perception, your reactions, and your identity. But here's the power. The same way a system can spread, awareness can spread too. And when truth becomes the fire, everything else begins to change. Next verse, verse 29. Woe to thee, Moab, thou art undone. He had given his sons and daughters unto captivity unto Sihon. Woe to thee is recognition of loss, consequence revealed. Moab represents previous identity patterns formed from distortion earlier. Chemosh represents false center of identity, misplaced trust or belief. Sons and daughters represent expressions, outcomes, extensions of identity. Captivity represents being ruled by a dominant belief system, Sihon. This is showing what happens when a system becomes dominant. Woe to thee, Moab. This is not a curse. It's a realization. It's saying this system has collapsed. It cannot stand. Moab earlier patterns are now overpowered. Thou art undone. This means the previous identity structure loses control, loses stability, loses influence. It is no longer sustainable. All people of Chemosh. Chemosh represents what Moab trusted. Symbolically, this is a false foundation, misplaced beliefs, distorted understanding, and identity built on something unstable. Now it is exposed. He had given his sons and daughters into captivity. Sons and daughters represent your actions, your expressions, and outcomes. When the system Sihon takes over, everything that comes from you is now shaped by it. How you think, how you act, and how you respond, all influenced by that dominant belief. Into captivity, this means loss of freedom. You are not choosing freely. You are not seeing clearly. You are operating under a system. Relationship example. A belief like I am not worthy leads to unhealthy choices, emotional dependency, and repeated patterns. Your expressions are in captivity. Career example. A belief like I can't succeed leads to hesitation, missed opportunities, and stagnation. Your outcomes are controlled. Religion example. A belief like God is against me leads to fear, confusion, and limitation. Your understanding is restricted. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals when a belief system rules you, it shapes everything that comes from you. What you are rooted in determines what you produce. It may feel like this is just who I am, but often it is something that has taken hold. And once it takes hold, it begins to shape your thoughts, your actions, and your identity. But here is the power. If something can take over, it can also be released. Because what is not rooted in truth cannot stand forever. And that is what this proverb is revealing. Verse 30. We have shot at them. Heshbon is perished even unto Dibon, and we have laid them waste even unto Nophah, which reached unto Medeba. We have shot at them means directed awareness, intentional confrontation. Heshbon is perished means collapse of the reasoning system. Dibon, Nophah, Medeba, extensions or regions of influence within that system. Laid them waste is complete dismantling, no longer functioning. This verse is still part of the proverb, meaning it describes the outcome of these systems when they ran their course. We have shot at them. This represents targeted awareness. You are no longer passive or unaware. You are intentional, focused, and clear. This is like confronting specific beliefs directly. Heshbon is perished. Heshbon equals reasoning system. This means the way of thinking that once ruled no longer stands. Distorted logic collapses. False conclusions fall apart. The system loses its power. Even unto Dibon, Nophah, Medeba, this represents the spread of that system. Not just the core, but everything connected to it. Related thoughts, supporting patterns, and secondary beliefs all are affected. We have laid them waste. This is total dismantling. Not suppression, but complete exposure and collapse. The system cannot function. It cannot sustain itself. It no longer influences you. It is finished. Relationship example. A belief like I am not enough. Once dismantled, you stop overgiving. You stop tolerating less. You stop seeking validation. The entire pattern collapses. Career example. A belief like I can't succeed. Once seen clearly, You act confidently. You take opportunities. You grow consistently. The system is gone. Religion example. A belief like God is against me. Once understood, fear disappears. Clarity emerges. Interpretation shifts. Everything connected to that belief changes. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals when truth fully exposes a system, it collapses completely. What is built on distortion cannot survive clear awareness. It may have felt strong, permanent, and unshakable. But once you see clearly, once you confront directly, once you understand deeply, it begins to fall. Not slowly, but completely. And what once defined you no longer exists in the same way. Because truth doesn't negotiate with illusion, it reveals it. And once revealed, it collapses. And that is the end of the system. Verse 31 to 32. Israel dwelt. This is established awareness or stable identity. Land of the Amorites represents former deep-rooted belief systems. This confirms the transformation is now stable. You are no longer fighting constantly, no longer reacting unconsciously. You are living from awareness, not visiting clarity, but dwelling in it. What this means? Your thinking is aligned. Your responses are intentional. Your awareness is consistent. The place that once ruled you is now where you live differently. Moses sent to spy out Jazer. Moses sent means awareness initiates exploration. Spy out is observe, examine, investigate deeply. Jazer means new area of understanding, unexplored territory. Villages represent smaller patterns or subtle areas. Drove out the Amorites represents removing remaining deep-rooted patterns. Even after stability, awareness does not stop. It now explores further. Moses sent to spy out. This is intentional. You begin to examine deeper layers. You look into subtle areas. You become aware of things you didn't notice before. This is refined awareness. They took the villages, not just major systems, but small patterns, subtle reactions, hidden assumptions, automatic responses. These are now addressed. Drove out the Amorites there. Even at this level, remnants can remain. But now, awareness is sharp enough to recognize, confront, and remove them. Nothing hidden remains. Relationship example. You've healed major patterns. Now, you notice subtle triggers, small reactions, and minor habits, and you refine them. Career example. You've grown. Now you refine discipline, improve consistency, and remove small limiting habits. Growth becomes precise. Religion example. You've gained clarity. Now You refine understanding. You examine deeper symbolism. You remove subtle misconceptions. Awareness becomes sharper. The deeper revelation. These verses reveal transformation doesn't stop at stability. It continues into refinement and expansion. Once you establish awareness, you begin to refine it. You have overcome, established, stabilized, and now you go deeper. Not because something is wrong, but because awareness naturally expands. You begin to see more, understand more, and refine more. And even the smallest patterns no longer go unnoticed. Because when awareness is mature, nothing remains hidden. And that is how transformation becomes complete. Verse 33. And they turned and went up by the way of Bashan, and Og, the king of Bashan, went out against them to battle at Edrei. Turn and went up is intentional elevation, conscious choice to ascend. Way of Bashan is path into deeper or older layers of identity. Og, king, represents ancient, deeply embedded root pattern. Bashan represents stronghold, hardened structure, long-standing conditioning. Went out against them is direct confrontation. Battle at Idra is final point of exposure and conflict. You've already dismantled surface systems, Moab, overcome ruling structures, Sihon, and established awareness. Now you go deeper. They turned and went up. This is not accidental. You choose to go higher, go deeper, face what remains. This is advanced awareness. Way of Bashan. Bashan represents something ancient and strong. These are long-held beliefs, deeply ingrained identity patterns, things you may not even realize are there. Not surface level anymore, but core level identity. Og, the king of Bashan. Og represents the deepest root, foundational beliefs, core identity structures, and subconscious patterns. These are things like who I am, how I see myself, what I believe at the deepest level. This is the final stronghold. He went out against them. Just like before, resistance appears, but this time it is stronger and deeper. You may feel deeper inner tension, subtle resistance, and identity level questioning. This is not surface conflict. This is core level confrontation. Battle at Idrai. Idrai represents a place of full exposure. This is where nothing is hidden. Everything is revealed. The root is seen clearly. This is the final stage before complete transformation. Relationship example. You've already healed patterns, set boundaries. Now you face deeper beliefs like, am I truly worthy of love? Who am I in relationships? Identity level questions. Career example. You've grown. Now you confront core beliefs, Like, who am I capable of becoming? What do I truly believe about myself? This goes beyond habits. Religion example. You've gained clarity. Now you question foundational identity. Who am I in relation to truth? What is my true nature? This is the deepest layer. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals, after overcoming systems and patterns, you must still confront the deepest identity level beliefs. The final battle is not with your patterns. It is with your deepest sense of self. You have come far. You have seen clearly. You have overcome patterns. You have established awareness. And now you face the deepest layer. Not what you do, but who you believe you are. And this battle is not to destroy you. It is to reveal you. Because once this is seen clearly, nothing else can hold you. And that is the final doorway. 34 to 35. Fear him not means do not be intimidated by deep patterns. Lord said means truth revealing assurance. Delivered into thy hand means already within your awareness and ability. His people and his land means entire system connected to that root. As thou didst unto Sihon, same process, awareness plus discernment. At this stage, the deepest pattern may feel overwhelming. Thoughts like this is too deep. This is just who I am. But truth says, fear it not, because it is already within your awareness. And anything seen clearly can be transformed. As thou didst unto Sihon, this is important. The method doesn't change. You don't fight harder. You don't struggle more. You apply the same principle, awareness plus discernment. Verse 35, so they smote him. So they smote him and his sons and all his people, and they possessed his land. Smote him means cut through the root belief. His sons and people represent all expressions and supporting patterns. None left alive means complete dissolution. Possess his land means full reclamation of identity. This is total transformation. They smote him. The deepest belief is seen clearly. And once seen, it cannot stand. His sons and all his people, everything connected to it, such as behaviors, reactions, and patterns, also dissolves because they depended on that root. None left alive. This is complete. Not suppression, but full release. No hidden parts remain. They possessed his land. This is the final state. The space that once held limitation, distortion, and false identity now becomes clarity, awareness, and truth. Relationship example. You no longer operate from insecurity. You don't repeat old patterns because the root belief is gone. Career example. You no longer doubt yourself. You no longer limit your potential because your identity has shifted. Religion example. You no longer fear or misunderstand because clarity is now your foundation. The deeper revelation. These verses reveal the deepest transformation happens when your core identity is aligned with truth. When the root changes, everything connected to it changes. You have faced patterns, systems, beliefs, and now you have faced the deepest layer, the belief of who you thought you were. And once that is seen clearly, everything else falls away, not by force, but by awareness. And what remains is not something new. It is what was always true. And that is the completion of the journey in this chapter. What you once feared was never sent to harm you. It was revealing something within you. What you once tried to escape was actually showing you what needed to be seen. And what once felt like a battle was the process of becoming aware. So the next time you read scripture, pause, look within, and ask, what is this revealing about me? Because the moment you see it, everything begins to change. And that is the end of Numbers 21. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next teaching. Have a good night.